Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. So, one of the news stories right now is President Trump voids pardons. At least he's made that comment that the pardons that Joe Biden did for, I guess, the January 6th panel is null and void because Joe Biden used an auto pin. It does raise some questions, right? I mean, it should. And if nothing else, that's what this does. It raises some questions. Do laws need to be changed or rewritten to be more specific that a president, for a pardon, probably should take the time to sign the damn thing themselves if it's that important to them? If it's not important to them, you know, then why are they giving a pardon, right? It's not like a president gives that many pardons per se. It's not even like the president is directing somebody to give a pardon. It's an auto pin. Well, somebody could have been directed to use the auto pin. So we're going to look into that. Of course, all the liberal news sites are like going nuts, right? Of course. That's what comes up. So we're going to look at PBS, Public Broadcasting System, which should be defunded because we don't really need a public broadcasting system in this day and age. Most people, even poor people, have internet. They have cable TV even. Big screen TVs, game systems. Some of the poorest of the poor have quite a bit of this stuff, It's our poor here are actually quite rich. We're not talking about the homeless person that's living, under the bridge or panhandling on the street corner, that even they tend to have smartphones that they get from their states and governments and all these programs, and they have internet. So, anyways, that's my rant for PBS. We don't need them anymore. Hell, Sesame Street went to HBO, so we really have no need for the public broadcasting system anymore. It's really not fair and unbiased like they claim to be. So anyways, that's my personal take on that. But that rant is over. Let's have a look here at what they're claiming. So fact-checking Trump's claim that Biden's pardons are void because he used an auto pin. Now, it goes into, this is his quote, about how it's void, vacant, and no further force or effort because of the fact that they were done by AutoPin. That's what Trump wrote on March 17th. I kind of agree with that. However, I will disagree somewhat with Trump here as we get into this a little bit. It all depends what Biden says. It really does. It comes down to what Biden actually verbally says, what he knows about the pardons. So, it is uncertain to us whether Biden used an autopin, a mechanical device that uses a robotic arm with a pin attached. Well, actually, there's a little more to it when you Google it. It's actually, I guess, a system that has a card that authorizes whoever puts in the card to be able to use the auto pin for that signature. Which makes sense, right? Because your signature is golden, especially in legal issues, right? So, by using an auto pin, if a secretary, like Joe Biden's secretary, has access to the auto pin for him, there's probably a card. He would say, hey, go sign these. You got authority to sign these fan mail, because White House always gets letters from people. Hey, come to my wedding, this and that. And they'll respond back with like a card and say, hey, thanks or whatever. And it's auto pinned. I mean, the president's not signing that crap. It's too much stuff, right? A lot of the mundane things it's just way too much. So it's understandable that somebody would be, in the old days, signing for them or using an auto pin in later times to have that signed signature and mailed out. And then you get in, you're like, oh, I got something from Joe Biden. You didn't get shit from Joe Biden. You got something from the administration, from the White House. with an auto pen signature. So it means very little as far as if you want to try to sell that as I have Joe Biden's signature. No, you don't. You have his auto pen signature. So it doesn't mean anything. A lot of people have that. So anyways, it goes into about other presidents have used the device because that's what they're saying. And even Trump has used it, and Trump has said he's used it for like fan mail, yeah. Because little Joey wants something, yes, he uses it. Right here it says, he was asked on Air Force One, I never use it. I mean, we may use it as an example to send some young person a letter because it's nice. But to sign pardons and all of the things that he signed with an auto pen is disgraceful. And I 100% agree. If you're not taking the time to actually sign a pardon yourself, then that issue probably wasn't important to you, and probably who did that? Because anyone could insert the card and be like, I'm just doing this. Joe doesn't know anything because, it is speculating among Democrats that Joe Biden has dementia. So does he really know what's going on? And was somebody just using his signature, using a authorized card to say, yeah, we're going to issue these pardons, and that's what they did? Because, you would think if you're doing pardons, you would kind of like be like, I'm signing this, show it, kind of like Trump does, proof that he signed it. He's showing the executive order, and he's doing all that because isn't doing pardons and all that, executive order, something you should be proud of? If you have to do that behind closed doors, then it's probably not something you should be doing anyways. It probably should be illegal. The law should change to where it's done in public and you have to actually sign the pardon yourself. Otherwise, I guess it really wasn't that important now, was it? Now that goes into about the pardon portion of the Constitution. Article 2, Section 2, Clause 1 says the president has the power to grant pardons, but makes no mention of sign or signature. More than a half dozen constitutional law experts told PolitiFact, as if that's a trusted source, they see no, and of course they say half dozen. How do we know there was even half a dozen people? Because, whoever wrote this for PBS is acting like there was when we have no idea. There was probably like one crazy person with purple hair that said, oh my God, yeah. And then PolitiFact, they see no restriction in the Constitution on the use of an auto pen. Well, of course, auto pens weren't then. They weren't a thing. So, of course, it's not going to say anything. That's stupid. The president possesses the power to pardon, but there's no specification, unlike for signing of bills, that this pardon be in writing, said Bernadette Myler, a Stanford University scholar of British and American constitutional law. Well, but there's lawyers that can argue the other side of it, that, the spirit of the law, that, you probably should be signing important stuff yourself, or doesn't mean much to you or the administration. Hence, it is not clear that a signature would even be required, as the decision to pardon could be oral rather than written. Okay, so this is where I said at the beginning, where all they have to do, and it's an easy out for Biden, is get Biden in front of news cameras and have him say, yes, I gave oral permission for so-and-so that had the permission of the auto pen to place upon the auto pen the signature, the sheet of paper for the pardon, and the auto pen did my signature. Thus, I granted those pardons. I knew about the pardons. So thus, they are legit pardons because I gave the permission to so-and-so to go ahead and use the auto pen for those pardons. Now, of course, he would be, question is, why not just sign them yourself if they're so damn important? And he would have to probably answer that or shy away from it and run off stage. But all he has to do is say, I gave permission, that's in my power, and that would be end of it. And then we could go and say, maybe we need to clarify this constitutional power that the president has by changing it to add simply that if they do a pardon, that either it's done in public orally, so Biden would have gone in front of the news and said, hey, I'm pardoning this person, that person, and from all their crimes, blah, blah, blah. Same thing as if you wrote it down, but he's going out there making a address to the nation or to media, so it's on record that this occurred. So orally, okay, it can be backed up. The problem with oral promises in the court of the law is, well, now a judge has to like listen to this side, listen to that side. Did that person actually say that, or was it misconstrued? Or that's why you always get things in writing, right? You get contracts in writing because yes, you can do handshakes and legally that would be binding, but do you have proof that occurred? Do you have proof what you're saying occurred versus what the other person is saying occurred? That's why we get this in writing. But if like me doing a video and I'm saying, hey, I'm going to give so-and-so $100, and I say that in a video and I give their like name, maybe their address or something, something that identifies that person, because there's going to be a lot of people with the same name possibly. And, identifying features that, hey, that is going to them, then they could hold me to that. If I said so-and-so was getting $100, I could be held to that because I said it and it's recorded and it's out there for the public to see. So if it was changed to that either he signs it directly himself or he made a public statement about the pardon. But yeah, if he did that in the public light, then I would say that would be grounds that he issued those pardons and it's golden. It's good to go. I just think, he has an out because all he has to do is say that, yes, I did issue those pardons, even as simple as that. And there's nothing you could probably do, right? Because you're like, oh, well, that's stupid, but we need to change that. So no other president can really use the auto pin except for like fan mail, employee promotions, and all that good stuff. Because my father had worked for the federal government, and he has a bunch of stuff that is signed by Secretary of States at the time, and this and that. And I even think presidents. And of course, it's auto pin. They didn't sit there and just sign his name. It's nice that I guess his work thought of him and he was recognized for his services, but at the same time, he knows, I know, everyone knows, it wasn't like George W. Bush signed that. It was an auto pin, because you know how many employees are getting stuff and this and that and get stuff from the president. Yeah, it's auto pin. You're not getting signed direct. In the future, let's say hundreds of years ago in the future. So Joe Biden signed this, great grandma, whatever. And it's not worth anything. It was an auto pin. That's it. Now, if it was saying you could verify that, Trump signed this executive order and held it up and you have that, yep, that's worth money because that's directly his signature. It's not an auto pin. It makes me wonder, with an auto pin, I guess they could use markers and stuff too, right? So, because he likes to use the Sharpie. So, yeah. Anyways, I just think this whole thing is silly, but it also raises questions legally and morally whether a president should be using an auto pin for matters that are serious matters. It would be like, signing something in declaration saying we're going to war with Ukraine. That's in the news, Ukraine. And the president uses an auto pin, doesn't even take the time to sign. Now, a president that has dementia, yeah, he ain't going to sign. Probably ain't signing much. I don't even think you could get Joe Biden right now in front of the camera because he's probably so far gone. We haven't really heard anything of him. We haven't really seen him. Is he doing okay? Is he in a nursing home? What's going on with him, So maybe he couldn't get in front of a camera and just simply, even if he's lying, say, hey, yeah, I gave somebody permission. Yes, they signed those, and leave it at that. And that would be the end of it. But it does open up a whole thing of issues. Of course, we're saying Abraham Lincoln had, back before auto pins, somebody that signed his name. So there's all different signatures depending who signed. Well, yeah, that's before auto pins and what have you, and where I don't even know if they're saying these are necessarily important issues. It could be like, hey, coming to such and such thing, and yeah, somebody signed it. He didn't have time to sign everything. So in 2005, during George W. Bush's presidency, the Justice Department's Office of Legal Counsel wrote a memo to the President's Counsel about the legality of using an auto pen to sign bills. The department concluded the President need not personally perform the physical act of fixing his signature to a bill he approves and decides to sign. Well, that's if he knows about it. And he's given permission, somebody's saying, yeah, go, you can sign that for me. That's if he knows about it. But what if Joe Biden doesn't even know about it? Now, that's the accusation, is Joe Biden his dementia is so far gone, he didn't even know about these pardons. That's a serious issue. That's a serious issue. Can't you see, liberals, where this could be an issue and this should be debated and this maybe needs to be changed of using an auto pen? I mean, maybe we just need to change that. Anyways, I don't want to make this too long of a video, but thank you all for watching, enjoying, and you all take care, give a thumbs up, and leave a comment down below, because I actually do look at those and do read them and respond a lot of times. So you all take care. Have a good one.